Hello, welcome to a brand new Hold On to Your Hats, the Sun's Still Out 5 Heart podcast. I'm Greg Mahochko. Joining me as always, our founder, our fearless leader, John Dam Johnston. And before the night is through, we do expect to be joined by another Corn Nation rider. So that's just going to set the scene for a little bit later. John, how are you?
I'm great. It's wonderful to see you.
You're just saying that because it's wonderful to see me at 8 o'clock Central instead of 9 o'clock.
It's probably a little bit more doable.
We'll see. It probably won't always be 8 o'clock, as you know. And as the good viewers and listeners of the 5 Heart podcast know, I work a lot of evenings. So I'm here now. Next week it might be 8:30. Lord only knows.
We can't move it around too much, or the drunks can't find us.
They will always find us. So with all of the proper adieu that is necessary, let's welcome in the third leg of this show, our special guest, a Corn Nation contributor. As I mentioned, you know him. Yup. Probably like him to some extent, and that is Nate McHugh. Hello, Nate.
Hey, guys.
He joins us with the sounds of murders being committed in the background.
Is it as weird for you to be seeing us in daylight?
No. I think when I look outside, the sun's still out, so I think it's normal. I don't know.
We never meet this early. That's the thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's usually.
I always thought it's always been 8. Whatever.
I don't know. Maybe that was before we started doing video. I don't know. Well, it's good to see you, and it's good to see all of you exclusively on YouTube because John said so. John, why don't you tell us why?
We have gotten some comments that people can't see other people's comments, but we put comments up and they're commenting on comments. And here's the thing. If everybody's on YouTube, we only have to worry about connecting to one social media service, and the social media services can be finicky about allowing connections, and everybody can be part of one big community on YouTube. And I hope everybody over on Facebook, did we post anything on Facebook?
Oh, you made a comment.
I think we mentioned it last week at the end of the show.
Yeah, okay. So I'll go over there and post this right now. But I hope that people from Facebook, get over here and join us.
Well, so far we're a couple minutes in. We maybe it's just me. I'm not seeing a single comment, so maybe YouTube was the wrong platform to go to. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. John, right there. Boom. Now we just need comment feed on the screen instead of just next to the video.
I don't understand what that means.
So when we were using Restream, we could sort of, for lack of a better term, embed the comment section to the side of the video, and it would show in the video. Now it's just on the side.
Right. They should be showing up down the side on the chat window in YouTube.
Right. But it used to be in the video itself, and that's how everybody got to read everybody else's comments.
Well, here's the thing. The comments show up on YouTube 24 hours. I think they scroll, or they have to program the stuff, or they have to, I'm missing the word. They have to analyze it, and then they post it.
Oh, a screen? You think they have to screen our comments?
I am guessing that they do some kind of, I don't know. I honestly, they're just slow. They're really fast when they want to find your copyrighted music you're publishing.
That's true.
Because they can find that shit in like 5 seconds. And they can say, hey, don't publish this. You're getting demonetized, or you're getting crushed into the ground or something. But when it comes to other stuff, not so fast, my friend.
I wonder if Nate can hear us. Okay. Are you just using speakers, Nate? Or do you have an earpiece in?
I'm using speakers, but I muted myself because my daughters came out of their bedroom. So
okay, I didn't know because John told me on this very show, it's like, if you don't teach your children how to swear, then I will. So I wouldn't want to make sure that your girls weren't getting really lessons.
It's true.
All right. So Colin says the people at YouTube are a bunch of Bill Callahans. And I don't really think I can argue with that, although I don't know exactly what he means. Fred says, missed Monday. Girlfriend said, let's go to wall wine, a ruse. Shoe store was next door. Felt like a Frost coach team in the second half, helpless and confused.
Wow. Good line again.
That's Fred.
I went to wall wine right before Christmas, and I had my oldest with me. And we were just, I'd never been there, and I was going to buy my dad some whiskey for Christmas, and they have a glass off area of these high-priced wines.
Mm-hmm.
And right when I saw the prices of some of them, I'm like, oh, and I'm like, slowly back away, get my son away, because I'm not going to spend, $150, $200.
You buy it.
What? Yes. And so, so that's my experience of wall-to-wall wine.
So I don't know if it's, different franchise altogether, or if it's the same in a different name. But in my area, we have Total Wine, which is wine, all your types of alcohol. And then what I like to do is I like to go there and acquire my variety of beers.
I'm new to this.
But, so anyway, great start to the show. But hey, we have a lot to talk about this week. It has been a very exciting last few days here in Husker Nation. Let's just dive right into it. The announcement came midday Wednesday that Ainsworth's own, the Bulldog himself, Carter Nelson, the top-ranked prospect in the state of Nebraska, is staying home.
Nate?
Me?
Yeah.
I was, up until last weekend, I was surprised. I would have expected him to pick Georgia, and I wouldn't have blamed him, and I would hope most Nebraskans wouldn't blame him to go to a program that puts in NFL player after NFL player that's winning national championships. At some point, your hometown school, when they're winning 3, 4, 5 games a year, and then there's a huge school that comes in and says, oh, by the way, we're the best team in the country. I mean, at some point, I wouldn't blame the kid if he would have gone. But then I saw the picture of him and Kalen, our new QB commit, relatively new. And when I saw them together, I thought, you know what? There might be a shot here. So supposedly Carter Nelson, before his visit, I think he was eating breakfast with a bunch of other commits and just loved the guys that he was around, and just made the decision that he was going to commit before his visit, I guess, or one of his most recent visits. So he could be a stud. Supposedly, 7 foot in the high jump or something like that. That's insane. So,
it's not better than your PR for high jump, Nate.
It's a lot better than my. I high jumped in junior high, and then they wouldn't let me do it anymore because I was so good at it. So
that's right. That's what he scared all the competition away. So, as I mentioned, top player in the state, third best tight end. This is a ridiculous list. Look, there have been Nebraska kids, and full grain of salt. I don't follow this as closely as others, so I'm sure some people will say you're forgetting this guy. But it seems like most of the Nebraska kids get offers, maybe from Nebraska, but Kansas State, Iowa State. We've seen some Wisconsin, Minnesota. But here's where he was taking some of his official visits and unofficial visits. I want to make sure that I'm clear. Took official visits to, of course, Nebraska, Penn State, Georgia, Notre Dame. Took an unofficial visit to Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Wisconsin, and others. I think he had in all 37 different offers, like Power 5 or D1 offers. So highly recruited, highly thought of. Let's see. He just had his measurables here a minute ago, so I apologize for the little delay.
6
Something
foot
like
5,
6'3", 220? 6'5", 220.
6'5", 215, which
Oh.
means he can put, probably 20 pounds, 30 pounds on his frame.
And there's something to be said, Nate, you kind of touched on it, and I've seen this elsewhere, but with the addition of Carter Nelson, that means that the top 4 players in the state of Nebraska are all staying home. I believe it is 5 out of the top 6, and the belief that Damon Benning's boy is going to go to Nebraska as well. I mean, it's unreal what, and this is going to be like, I think the main folks of the, or at least in my opinion, there's been such a shift in focus, and I don't know if it's that Nebraska's producing, talent, more talent than they have in recent years that's highly sought after, or if the coaching staff is more focused, or if they're not afraid to go into Ainsworth, visit the number 3 tight end by most metrics in the country, and lay down an offer. It was Scott Frost scared to do that. Was Mike Riley scared to do that? We know Bo Pelini didn't care to recruit.
Scared wasn't the word.
Okay, well, I mean, we're
fucking lazy is the word. Let's just be blunt about it. Mike Riley maybe not have been lazy, but the whole Frost regime, they thought that things were going to just come to them because that was Scott Frost, and that never happened.
Can I throw a crazy idea out there?
Throw a crazy idea out there.
I'm hoping you would.
Okay. So let's say, looking into the future, that Nebraska in 2-3 years starts winning. They're not going to have divisions anymore, but let's say they start playing well enough. They're like a perennial top 15 team, and it's because of this recruiting class and these Nebraska kids. I think, and again, this might sound stupid, but the Raiola commitment to Georgia could have been the best thing that ever happened to Nebraska, because who knows, of course, yeah, if he would have committed and he would have been this, he might have brought a bunch of studs with him. And I know that, but I don't know if Nebraska gets those 2 Bellevue West wide receivers. Do they get Carter Nelson? I don't know, because it seems like Daniel Kalen seems to be doing a really good job peer recruiting. And so I just think it might be fun in 3, 4, or 5 years looking back and thinking that losing the number 1 quarterback in the entire country could have been the best thing that ever happened to Matt Rule in Nebraska.
We'll put it on the calendar to look back.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
That's going to be a long look back, but anyways, I think that could definitely happen, but
Mike Schuster checking in saying hello all, GBR. Some good comments here. John Schmidt says, can he play tackle? And follows up with this year. I saw a comment, I think it was on Twitter. So again, take it with a grain of salt, that says something like, hope you don't get first of all, when he announced that he was going to make the announcement, I think he gave like 24-hour notice or something like that. He said, hey, stick around tomorrow noon, whatever, however that unfolded. And in the replies, people were like, come to Nebraska, I'm like, timeout. He's made his decision. Like, you're not going to do any last minute, like campaigning at the polls to try to sway him. We've said this for years. I've heard it on the Big Red Cobcast and others. Just do yourselves a favor and don't tweet at recruits.
I think you should just not tweet ever. Just not tweet.
John, then who would you interact with when you're in?
I don't.
Not so.
I don't anymore. I notice that when I go on Twitter, nobody interacts with me, which is why Nate's going to take over the Twitter account.
Well, now hold on. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but in Twitter's defense, they never know exactly when you're the man behind the machine.
I think I know. Maybe not everyone else does, but I think I'm like, oh, that's John.
Oh, there's the grenades. That's what you're thinking. Look at him. Look, he went after that guy today.
Fred, in a very measured response, says, I see Nate M's opinion. Not getting Raiola may have broken a potential logjam. Well-reasoned response. What the heck is he doing on here?
Oh, every once in a while we bring on a rational human being. What do you want from us, Fred? We can't all be insane.
I had to make sure he was talking to us. Is where in the heck did we find this guy? Now Nate's been on here before. Nate was just on a couple weeks ago with me. So
I think
Nate, go ahead, John.
I think that he's got broken a potential logjam is a good point.
It does seem that since that decision was made, the coaches could really zero in. You know, I'm gonna put it in. This is not a good analogy. This is not apples to apples. Might not even be apples to Buicks. But with the Dylan Raiola, like in a salary cap, you know that Dylan Raiola emphasis was so steep that now since he's gone on to other shores, you can really focus on. Look, I'm pleased as punch with the way that this 2024 recruiting class is shaping up.
And with regards to can he play tackle stuff, didn't we see like yesterday or something that Bryce Benhart was preseason picked to be a third string All Big Ten tackle?
Yeah, it was by one of those preseason magazines. So if that was Athlon or which
Phil
one it
Steele?
is.
Phil
Steele?
Steele?
Was it Phil Steele? Okay.
Was it Phil Steele? Who has three Big Ten teams? That way he can tell people I picked that guy on a Big Ten team.
You know what? I can probably find out here in a minute.
But that the fact that it was Bryce Benhart being picked to an All Big Ten team, I think there's a lot of faith in that. I mean, Bryce Benhart, when he came to Nebraska, was a highly recruited guy, and he, has been let down by coaches that didn't teach him a damn thing. And
4-star out of Minnesota, correct?
Yeah.
Fred says that, and we know this because Fred is here all the time, but Fred was here last time you were on, Nate. It was the 90% less Shake Fist at the Sky podcast, but it missed John's Trending to Madness, like a serious MASH episode without the laugh track. Oh, thank you.
Trending to Madness. You know what I did this week? You know what I've done so far this week? I've worn pants for 2 full days this week so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did that hurt?
It was difficult.
You know what you need?
Pants.
You need some of that Manscaped ball deodorant.
I guess so. I wouldn't have. Do you know what I need? Wouldn't have followed that up with. Got to been 435th on the list of things that I thought I might need.
Would that be way down on your tick?
Yeah. It would be way down on the tick. Yes.
More comments about. Here's Fred again saying, happy about the Nelson kid. Saw a pic. Is Amir? Does he look kind of slight and lean? Is he a Harrian type? Now you mentioned 6'5", 215, 220. I have no doubt that when he steps on campus and gets in to that weight room and that nutrition, he's gonna add some size.
Yeah. 15, 20 pounds at a minimum.
So I think you're expecting him to put on. He's 15 pounds. I'm thinking like 40. Like, is it 215? Is that what he is?
Yeah.
I mean, 15, 230. That's still really small for like. unless you're expecting he's just purely like a split out tight end, I'm not really sure. Trying to think, was that
how big is Rob Gronkowski?
Without looking, can I just take a guess? I'm
Yeah.
going to guess 250, 260.
245.
Okay. So, right, and he looks like probably one of the bigger ones, right? Yeah. And so, just somebody that small.
Time out.
What?
Pro Football Reference has Gronk at 6'6", 265.
Probably depends what year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was close. I was right? So.
Yeah. Nate, you're never wrong. Let's just put it.
Here's the thing with Carter Nelson. He's ranked by, you mentioned number 3 tight end. I've seen him ranked number 2 tight end. We still have the number 1 tight end in his class on our roster that has never seen the field during a football game and can still probably go out, and we're looking at him. And no, wait, the one thing that you think about this June or this offseason is this recruiting bonanza and these camps and everything that's happened has honestly got us all talking about the 2024 class. And we have just forgotten all the people we actually have and the 2023 season coming up. So I don't know if they intended to draw the attention away from it, but they certainly have done a good job of just getting the attention.
And I don't want to overlook that, but Nebraska does have a history. Now, maybe they're not going in the top round or top couple of rounds, but Nebraska does have a history of putting tight ends in the NFL. Even most recently, Jack Stoll, Travis Vokalek. So even guys who are coming to Lincoln with maybe fewer stars behind, their name or less accolades, for whatever reason, tight end it's a position that shines at Nebraska. So,
Johnny Mitchell.
Yes. I mean, could you imagine a world that has Fedone and Nelson in a double tight end set?
If they reach their potential, that would be fun.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
I mean, if all the players that Nebraska had in the last 5 years reached their potential, we would have, won divisions, won conferences, and been in playoffs. But we also had a coaching staff that didn't know how to develop talent. And I think that's what I'm going to be most interested to see with Matt Rule and company going forward at, being here a full year and maybe 2 full off seasons, is he's doing the work so far. We won't see the development side really until the end of August, into September and October. The winning the offseason, title, or however you want to give that, is very nice. And I do have a lot of faith in this coaching staff. But that was the Achilles heel to the last 5 years. The last regime is getting highly touted players, but they had maximized their potential upon stepping foot in Lincoln. And I would – that's why I'm not as concerned. I think I saw today where Nebraska is number 4, I think maybe number 5 in the Big Ten, like their 2024 recruiting class. A couple of 4 stars, a lot of 3 stars. I'm happy with the 3 stars as long as they get coached up, because we had some 4 stars that didn't. And so, again, they didn't get any better. And that's tough on a player. And I could see why a player would want to transfer out when he's looking at, like, oh, I've been in, Lincoln or Iowa City or wherever it might be. I've been like, oh, I've been here 3 years and I haven't really improved and I haven't gotten any better. I'll take a step down just to get a change of scenery. I'll go to, South Dakota State or, wherever, just to see something new. I could get it. I get behind it.
Do you know, I remember it might have been Pelini, and I wonder if it's before that, where we were getting a lot more. It was the time of the Big 12, that we were in the Big 12. And I remember it might have been with Riley, because they said, oh, yeah, we're getting all these California kids so they can develop them. Because, and this is relevant to today.
Nebraska?
Yes, Nebraska. And this is relevant because now we're pulling all these kids out of Texas, right? like we did in the Big 12. And I remember people, because it's always after the fact, right? It's like they're so stupid. They should have known, right? But it's, I remember people saying is that high school football in Texas, and this can go two ways. It's so good that these kids are coming out more prepared to play college football, but they're also more developed, and they might already be towards the top or as good as they're going to get. And so that was the criticism back then. And now we're pulling kids from Texas again. And I don't know if that's true or not, but they're saying now, yep, kids in Texas are playing against better players in Texas, and so they're more, they know more about football and all that. And so I think this is going to be just like, if Matt Rule fails, we're going to look back at probably one of the, how they recruit, because they're, I mean, the wide receiver, the Clark legacy that we just pulled this week, his offer list was like Midland University, Montana, and so right now we all love Matt Rule, but we're going to, because we're giving him the benefit of the doubt, right? When in the future, that, in 2 or 3 years, we might look back and be like, I can't believe, of course it failed, because he was signing all these kids that nobody knew about because he found them at a camp. He thought he knew better than everybody else, right? And that's exactly what's going on. And he might know better than everyone, or that he knows what he's looking for, right? And that's what we're saying now. But man, if he fails, we're going to look back and we're going to say, what an idiot. How did he not realize, that's just how it's going to work. But I would say I am impressed that, and I would like to ask Matt Rule this, are you such a well-organized coach? Do you just know so much better that you knew you were going to get 16 commits in 22 days in June? I mean, are you just that good? Because it's just like, did they plan this, right? Was this the plan all along? I don't know, but I just think we might look back and be like, oh, of course it failed. Just like we have with every other coach. Of course it failed because of this, and so that's what I'm interested in.
I prefer to look at the Texas thing as we are saving these kids' lives. That's what we are doing. I go to Texas next week. On the 4th, I'm flying to Dallas, and then I'm going to Austin for the next weekend, and then I'm going to stay in Dallas a few days. You know what Texas is right now?
Scorching hot.
It's the hottest place on planet Earth, and we need to go to Texas to pull them kids out of Texas and get them away from that climate change weather and save their lives from that shit. For years, we've heard about the Big Ten, and nobody wants to come play in the cold. Well, now they're just going to come play in normal temperatures. And the rest of the nation, Texas is just going to be like 140-degree heat index. They'll all be dropping dead. So they can just move north now and get ahead of the curve. That's what this is.
Well, while Nate was singing his praises a few moments ago, here's what he has to say to Nate now. He says, Rule knew he was going to get these guys before even he knew it, and quit blaspheming, Nate.
Blasphemer.
Dion Pryor, who's a pretty regular Chatterfield head, says in regards to you ever see Rule's last Baylor team? Those guys were good. And then Dion also says that our current tight end, maybe our last remaining tight end that has big game experience, Borkacher, could get drafted as well. Now, what I'll say is this in regards to kids coming in and already, maxing out their, I don't want to say their potential, but they're coming in. Look, it's a much different approach, I think, now to college football than it was 10 or 20 years ago, where, because of off-season camp and look, I never played Division I college football. I want to be very clear about that. And I'm sure that there were guys who were committed and they made it their whole lives, and it was round the clock lifting weights and eating creatine, or whatever. But with the advent of the internet, guys are, they're finding different trainers there. We touched on at the very end of last year. I mean, not last year, last week, when we said that, oh yeah, by the way, Dylan Raiola is transferring to Georgia, because obviously, like, guys are, it's like almost like they're trying to start their college careers early by getting into that atmosphere, getting into that climate, or, whatever else, getting close to where they're going to call home in a lot of cases. So I don't know. It's interesting to think about. And I don't know exactly where I was taking that thought, so I apologize to everybody.
He's getting out of Arizona.
Yeah.
Well, Georgia's got to be at least a little cooler.
And this is probably because I've never had to deal with somebody like Dylan Raiola, but I just wonder, what was the relationship with his teammates in Arizona that he was like, you know what, I'm already going to Georgia. What else do I have to prove? Maybe I can enjoy my time with my friends. Maybe, that's always been a thought in my head. When you see these kids transfer in high school, going from high school to high school, like, I wonder what their teammates think of them.
I want to address one part, because he went to, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 or 5 high schools in his 4 years of high school, right? So when you're bouncing around that much, I mean, that's packing up and moving with greater frequency than somebody in the military, right? You don't even have any time to really stop and develop any relationship. So there's always the approach of, and maybe this is the Raiola approach, but he's just like, a gun for hire type of thing. I mean, that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, he is kind of chasing a scholarship in a way, even though he was number 1 player in the country. Number 1 quarterback in the country. So maybe there's some justification there. I just don't know what the benefit is, besides acclimating to the state.
Humidity.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure they have their reason.
There's probably the reason is that Georgia high school that he transferred to is probably running the same offense that Georgia is.
Oh, and if that's true, then that's a really good reason, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I want to, John, since you're going to be in Texas, when are you in Texas again?
From like the 4th through the 11th.
Oh, I might have to hunt you down. But Dion says that heat is hell on the old guys with heart problems. And while that's great, that's a great comment. And it's unfortunate that Texas is so damn hot. But Fred has a really good idea that Nebraska fans, or maybe Nebraska coaches, could get bumper stickers, kind of like you see the rescue dog mom, like, bumper stickers. It'd be like, we've rescued all these Texas football players and got them out of that sweltering heat.
It could be, but don't be shaking your head like that. It could be a movement. It could be a movement.
John, can you get some of those printed up?
Yeah.
Get those on the site. By the way,
that sounds like a good T-shirt.
By the way, I don't know if you knew this out there, but we have merch.
Yeah. I forget to put those up.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for. You can get a shirt. You can get pajamas. You can get bandana. You can get some yoga pants, I think. Cobbycorn.com. Use the code Monday Night 623 for 15% off. Yes, Monday night. We record and do the show live on Thursdays, but John says one code is enough.
No, I said tonight I should make another one. Okay.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. In regards to some of those bumper stickers, Fred says, this 4-star rescued me. I didn't rescue him. Thank you, Fred, for bringing the laughs. All right,
so,
let me kill this. Go ahead.
So we lost. No, you can leave it running.
Okay, fine.
We lost Caleb Pyfrom.
Pyfrom.
Went to Illinois.
Which I guess people expected the whole time.
Okay, we lost another guy today too.
No, he's from Kansas.
Yeah,
went to Kansas State. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Did we expect him to come to Nebraska and be an offensive lineman?
No, I think we're hoping for Bix, the guy from Iowa.
Yeah, well, we want that guy.
And maybe it was either or those two. I'm not sure.
Caleb Eifram, a 3-star offensive tackle from Omaha Central, 6'5", 300-pounder, going to Illinois.
You know, and I think I talked about this last time, I expect us to lose to Illinois. You know, that's one of my, you know, I think we did talk about this, though. It was like.
Is that your trap game?
No, I just expect – I think he's a really good coach, and I think he knows what he's doing, and I want him to get out of Illinois as fast as possible so they can go back to sucking. And then, you know, because just the way he play, you know, his teams play, I mean, part of it's his time at Wisconsin, you know, and now his teams just beat the crap out of people. And so, anyways.
Yeah, I hate Bert.
He can coach football. Just like John's guy here in Minnesota.
PJ Fleck, yeah.
PJ Fleck can coach, so
he can bring up the 3 stars.
And that's what Nebraska needs. Coach them up. Get them ready for Saturday. Or I guess in Nebraska's case, like a Friday night, maybe a Thursday. I mean, Lord only knows.
So, Nate, earlier this week in Slack, you posted some kind of graph thing that showed Nebraska number 4 in the Big Ten in their rankings, in their recruiting.
Yeah.
Did you tell us about that? Tell us about it. Tell us.
Do I have to give you the numbers, or do I?
No, I'll find the numbers
if you want. Okay.
I think I know what point you want me to make. Is that at that time, Nebraska was ranked 4th in the conference for the recruiting class, right? And the top is Ohio State, I believe.
Yeah.
And then Michigan, and then Penn State. And the numbers, well, however they come to the numbers, I'm not sure. But Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State were pretty close. I'm going to say like Ohio State was 220. Again, I'm making these up in my head. Michigan was maybe 210 or 200. Penn State was like 195 or something like that. And so we're 4th, right? That sounds amazing. But we are like way down here, you know, like 150 or something like that, you know? And so, yeah, it's we got the 4th ranked, you know, class in the conference, but there's those 3 and then there's everybody else. And Patrick Gerhardt, our basketball writer, mentioned today that I think 24/7 put in USC into our conference rankings, which they should, right? So we are now 5th. So and so USC is they're gonna be probably right up there with the Penn States and all that. So it's gonna be tough sledding. You just got
to win this year. Wipe the stink off. Wipe it off. Wipe the stink off us, and people will be going, we need to escape Texas and get to Nebraska to live. All the good football players.
You know what's going to help with that? And this is my question to you guys. So with this new Red Fly living in Omaha, Red Fly, whatever the new, it's not airline in Lincoln, but their new like direct flights. They got direct flights with Dallas, Houston, and what's the third one? In Texas. Mm-hmm. I thought I read today there's 3. But my question is this. What do you guys think? Do you think because Matt Rule was there when they announced it, like he was at the press conference. Do you think it was one of his, requirements to come to Nebraska that he wants direct flights from Texas to Lincoln? Or do you think that was like I'm hired now. You know what would be a really good idea? We should do this. Or do you think he's like told Trev Alberts, no, in order for you to get me, I need direct flights to Texas?
Wow, I never considered that. Do they have that much money they could command an Air Force?
I don't know. That's what I mean. Like, it's kind of like, it seems kind of like a coincidence that the guy that spent so much time in Texas, all of a sudden he shows up. Now we have like 3 direct flights, right? Because that's what
direct flight to Minneapolis too.
Yeah, well, that's what the kid that committed today, the defensive tackle, he mentioned those flights, and he said that a lot of these Texas coaches, college coaches, are, he said, scared or whatever, that all these Texas kids are fleeing Texas, just like what John says. And so I just kind of wondered, it's like, I wonder if this is part of, Matt Rule knowing better than everybody and all that, But, yeah, if you get direct flights in Nebraska out of Texas, that makes that getting here, because that's been the whole problem, right? Is the travel as far as like official visits on game days and all that. You just fly them right into that small airport in Lincoln and drive them, 5-10 minutes to the Memorial Stadium. I mean,
Mom can come see all the games she wants for $25 a hit. I don't know how much is it to get on one of those flights. It's ridiculously
no idea.
cheap. It was like $100 or something. It was like, how can you afford to do this? What kind of planes are these? Are these the same kind of planes that would go 6,000 feet underwater?
No, let's not go there. That's not our style, John.
Okay, Redbird. That's what it is, right? Redbird Airlines.
Well, to the it should just be Big Red Airlines is what it should be called. But to the point, Nebraska did pick up another commitment today, and that was Carlin Jones, again from Texas.
Austin, Dallas, and Houston.
Oh, those are good choices. I mean,
Austin, go Fly Red. Sorry, go ahead.
Is it?
I don't mean to take. Glow. That's what I'm reading.
Red Way.
Well, I'm reading this from Mike Schaefer's article. That's all. Okay, I'm done. Sorry. Greg, you're muted.
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay. Did he know better? I think that it's very interesting though that you make that point that this really just came up after Matt Rule became coach.
You think Scott Frost is like, come on, guys? Like, where was that set?
Well, I think he wanted direct flights to other places.
It's very true.
Can you get direct flights to strip clubs? I feel like most strip clubs are already by the airport.
No comment.
All right.
Did you know the answer to that question?
No, that's not why it's no comment. No. I'm not making any assumptions about Scott Frost, I guess.
Backing up a couple minutes here to one of your, I don't want to call it a tirade, Nate, but something you were going on. Anyway, it elicited this response from Fred, who says, "Geez, Nate, why don't you grow a very, very small mustache?"
Is that like Hitler? Is that what
I see? See, I thought of it more like a Snidely Whiplash, a very thin mustache.
Oh,
that's how if I would have interpreted it the way you interpret, I would not have.
It could have been, a Boston Blackie kind. Jimmy Buffett. I wish I had a pencil thin mustache, the Boston Blackie kind. Two-tone Ricky Ricardo jacket and an autograph picture of Andy Levine. Okay, thanks. We'll move on.
I like it.
The looks on your faces. Gee, I thought Nat was going to die. Nat was going to die too. Okay.
Fred also says, we got talking about Illinois, and of course, Bert. Fred says, my favorite Brett Bielema moment was when he jumped over that wall to freedom into the ocean. That's a free Willy reference.
Man.
Thank you, Fred. Nate, you got to get, you know what, if you're going to be on this show regularly, Nate, you're going to have to stoop to our level. We are not a high road show.
We are sometimes. Sometimes we are.
Sometimes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So this was in regards to the question or the photo that I just had up there a few moments ago. Fred says, "Why are all the new recruits carrying boom boxes? Is this breaking two electric Husker boogaloo all over again?"
I don't know. I'm sure. I wonder if it's an inside joke among the class, right? Or among the program.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is because I'm old and we used to have boom boxes and I thought they were gone.
I had boom boxes, so and I'm young, so.
I don't know about the young part.
You're young too, Greg.
I'm gonna be 41 next week, Nate.
Yeah, you're
like
older
that.
than me, but you're still young.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like that's old, you candy ass.
Speaking of like, John, you'll appreciate this. This might be your favorite comment of the whole night.
What's that?
Zizak
All right.
says, "Smash the like button. Carter staying home."
That's
And
it is nice. It is. It's nice to beat Georgia out for a really high relayed, recruit right up there. What? What are you
That's
doing?
not the part I was. You smash like button. Make sure when you're watching this on YouTube, you give us the thumbs up. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the show and do what so many great people are doing right now, which is be part of the conversation in the comments section. We probably won't read it after the show is over, but if you join us in the show, we'll definitely read it. Right, John?
Yeah. Sometimes I remember things people say to me.
That's crazy because you don't remember much anymore.
I don't.
Sam McEwen, as far as Carter Nelson goes, made a comment on the podcast that I listened to today that this was probably a bigger deal that we got him than we know. Because if Georgia comes in and gets some small town kid from Nebraska, that all these SEC schools are going to think Nebraska, this whole state is open for business. Where mainly a lot of these outside schools are going after just Omaha kids. And so I thought that was a really good point that, you get, he's not some kid from, an OPS school or Millard North or something like that. It's small town Nebraska, and they come in and grab them. So it might have been a bigger deal than we know.
And that's one of those things we got to put down on a phone. See that? For 5 years from now, they'll look back.
Oh, yes.
And also, this is not like Nebraska kids who grew up in the Tom Osborne era who were coming into a program that was a perennial contender. Carter Nelson, God love him, has really never seen a wildly successful Nebraska football program. There's not that, I want to, be into that, national contention talk all 4 years. It could happen. 12-0, 15-0, I think we've established it's likely to happen this year. But he's probably along the mentality of Danny, some of these recruits from Bellevue
West.
Yeah, I got there. Took me a minute. They're probably thinking that they're going to be the home state, hometown, homegrown kids who are turning it around. And give me that. Give me a bunch of kids who are going to come in with a little bit of swagger and want to turn Nebraska around. I'll take as many of those as I'll take the 4 and 5 star recruits who are coming in who don't have the connection. Give me the guys whose whose dads or whose uncles or whose older brothers, they've done their whole lives is heard stories about how good Nebraska was. Be like, you know what? I got a little bit of a God-given ability, and let's see if I can't make Dad or Uncle Steve or my older brother proud. Grandpa, things like that. That's I think that's something.
Is Damon Benning's kid any good?
I have no idea. I think he's a defensive back. He's getting interest from Iowa, and as much as I hate Iowa, if they want a kid from here, I feel better about getting that kid, right?
So especially on defense.
Job. Yes. And so
yeah, okay. That makes sense.
I would suspect he's probably pretty good.
Okay.
The 7th ranked kid in the state, I feel like that if you were to go back 10 years, maybe it's because we were a better program, but it's the same thing with basketball, is that we have schools coming in to recruiting kids out of the state of Nebraska. And in all sports generally, but basketball and football that I don't think you would have saw 10 years ago. Like Gonzaga's coming in and getting a kid, and Georgia's trying to come in and get a kid. And it's like, I don't think you would have saw that. And so I think the talent level's going up, the coaching's getting better, development in the state's getting better. Because you might get like one or two. We got 7, 8 kids now that are Power 5 players, right?
I'm going to test both your memories. So John, I apologize in advance. If Haas were here, he know exactly who I'm talking about. But there was a kid from Lincoln who was maybe like an offensive line or maybe defensive line, something like that, who went to Wisconsin a few years ago. Like Williams, does that sound? I don't know if that. But I mean, I checked. I was looking. I didn't even see him on their roster anymore. But I mean, I see. I think that the tide has turned, and we're not going to be losing the top in-state talent anymore.
Well, we'll see what happens with the winning.
Fred just said this: home state kids who've never seen their team be great. How would this look at Bama, Georgia, etc.? In-state top players they gathered over time. Is this just unique to Nebraska, the former power loyalty?
Well, right now we're after that Bix kid out of Iowa.
Yeah.
And Iowa's not in on him at all. Supposedly. Like, I think they probably would like to be, but they're not even a consideration. And, and he's the top player in the state. And they're winning 10 – they're expected to win 10 games next year. Right? I think the over-under is like 9, I think. And so, I mean, it's just this generation of kids aren't as,
loyal.
As loyal, which is fine, which is just fine,
Well, think about the 17, 18-year-old today versus the 17 or 18-year-old. Maybe that's the point I was trying to make earlier and failed to. But the 17 or 18-year-old 20 years ago, the internet was still relatively new. Go back 25 years ago, I mean, it almost didn't exist really. So, but now because of social media, the world is a lot smaller. So they can connect with kids from all over the place, other top recruits, and be like, where are you going? Where are you going? You like Alabama? You like Georgia? I'm staying here. I'm going to Nebraska. Oh, so there is a world where they're almost being, I think, maybe not so much loyal to the in-state, program du jour, but maybe they're latching on to some of these kids that they see at camps and elite, weekends or whatnot, and they're forming these bonds and finding their future and finding their path that way. That might be part of it.
Or it could be that he lives really close to a pig feedlot, and you know how pig shit smells a hell of a lot worse in the summer sun than it does in winter. And he wants to get the hell out of Iowa and away from all that toxic waste they're generating over there.
Fred, in regards to the Bricks kid, Fred says Iowa's not in on him because he doesn't use dial-up internet. Little jab it. Okay. Sorry, Fred. I enjoyed it. I liked it enough to highlight it, but these guys didn't care for that one. Let's see. Here we go. Go ahead, Nate.
So back to the Matt Rule is a genius and knows more than everybody, right, type of thing. So I thought I had, and someone who knows his time in Baylor could probably answer this question. But he's going after all these kids who are track athletes, who are under-recruited, who are underdeveloped, and they're saying we have the coaches who can develop these kids, and that probably the fact that he believes in them builds loyalty and all that. I believe those kids, particularly there are legacy recruit who had an offer from Montana State. He's probably not going to transfer next year, right? he's probably not, with this transfer portal issue, he's probably not going to like just jump up and leave if things aren't going well, right? Because he has nowhere to go, you know. So, and I almost wonder if that's him playing chess, you know, or trying to find some way to, you know, because you still want those 4 stars and all that, but man, if you get these kids that meet these criteria that you have, they're probably not going to go anywhere, right? And while you develop them for 3 or 4 years. And so that's just, I hope that's it. Again, if we suck, then we're going to look back and be like, what an idiot, right? But until then, that's just a thought that I had too.
We're not going to suck. We're not.
Quinn Clark, the top player in the state of Montana. Now, look, I've seen a river runs through it, so I know that Montana is beautiful. I don't know the type. Well, hey, who would was it Torre? Samari Torre that came from Montana?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, Samari.
Yeah.
Torre.
Okay. So I mean, you know, there's some talent up there. Everybody, let's just you know. I like how you. All right. So, got some more questions here. Fred said earlier in the show, if Rule isn't just playing a fast-talking son of a preacher man, they'll keep and develop talent. If he's all sizzle, no steak, then to hell with him. John, get the pitchfork ready. That was a much earlier comment. I think we've moved on from that, but I did have it highlighted, so apparently I thought something was there earlier. Dion Pryor says, I'd like to know how much this recruiting class cost with the NIL. Hopefully get our money's worth.
Significantly less than one Dylan Raiola, probably.
Nate?
That question for me? You know what I'm looking for?
What are you looking for?
How much Fedoni weighed when he was recruited compared to how much he weighs now.
Well, you could probably look at the 247 profile. I think
that's what I'm looking for. It's being kind of an issue. It's throwing a tantrum. So
we don't like tantrums.
Oh, how much did Raiola compared to NIL? No idea.
Nate, can I ask a question? This one's just for you.
Is it about my curtains?
No, this one's just for you. We know about your shower curtains. In the Slack chat room, and maybe on Twitter, I don't know. You tweet a lot of ridiculous things on Twitter, so I don't know what's like serious and what's not. But in the Slack chat room, you tend to make cross-sport references. For example, yesterday after Carter Nelson made his announcement, you said Hoiberg has convinced Carter Nelson to commit to Nebraska.
Yeah.
And then I know our favorite Jill, or not I'm sorry, Jill was in the thread, but John said, "Thank God we kept Hoiberg."
Yeah,
that's not the first time you've made a Fred Hoiberg cross sport recruiting trail reference, and I'm just got to ask to satisfy my own personal curiosity. Why?
Because this is for people who want to know what it looks like in our Slack chat room. Is whenever we get a commit, generally we send out a DM to everybody and just says commit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's boring. So I'm just gonna throw something else out. Like the first time I did it, I said, that Hoiberg was fired, right? Isn't that I did that long time ago, like after the basketball season. Yes. And then like all these people show up, right? And so like that was probably a little too far. But
yeah.
But I thought it was funny at the time. So
so he keeps going. He keeps running a bad gag.
Yeah, that's
okay. Oh yeah, I know. And so what you do is you keep running it, and then people get tired of it, and then you keep going, and then it becomes funny again. And so the one I did today is I went and found a quote from Abraham Lincoln, And the quote was, "I am a slow walker, but I never walk back." And signed by Abraham Hoiberg Lincoln. And so I thought, I'm not just going to put commit. I think it's dumb. So, and it seems like no one's complained about it yet, but I think they understand. Oh, that's Nate, and it's.
That's Nate. Nate, who says crazy things on Twitter, like pro Chicago Cubs tweets. It's just never know when to take him serious. Brando's Sports World is here. Brando, good seeing you. I know you're probably confused as to why we started at 8:00 instead of 9. That's just because we could, I suppose, tonight. Dion says that if we suck, then we know we took kids that we used to take as walk-ons. That's Nate likes that one. John giggles, and I think let's pump the brakes on calling the third-ranked tight end, maybe second-ranked tight end in the country. I'll walk on. Fred says all the jerky, all the cottons can eat. That's what it's worth when we're talking about the NIL, which means I have to go back and remind you, Pipeline Jerky. Go get it and directly support your Nebraska offensive lineman. Isn't that how that works, John?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yes, it is.
They get nil money from Pipeline Jerky. You know, that plug reminds me that tomorrow there will be a story on Corn Nation that there will be Nebraska themed coveralls coming out next week, because that's what you need.
John, can you get me some?
Yeah, sure.
If you get me some, I'll wear them in Texas.
Why will you be in Texas?
I'll be in there for a work conference for about 2 days in Dallas. In the sweltering heat, in a suit.
They'll go well. I'm sure that people will accept you at a business conference in Dallas in Nebraska of overalls. Which is it, coveralls or overalls?
I don't know, coveralls.
Oh.
All right, so.
Is it crick or creek?
I say creek, but I'm not, well, there you
I
go.
think a creek is bigger than a crick.
Crick. No, it's crick. I grew up near Medicine Valley Creek. It wasn't Medicine Valley Creek. That's how we knew how the outsiders were, and we took care of them thusly.
We have Battle Creek as one of the towns in Nebraska, so.
Well,
I'm pretty sure you have Battle Creek.
That's Battle Creek. See, that's again, if you pronounce it like that, you know. Okay. Kind of like Kearney and Kearney, or Beatrice and Beatrice.
Yeah, I got that one.
Beatrice, you're not from here, so.
Can I tell
North Platte and North Platte?
So I never called North Platte, but when I was brand new in terrestrial radio, I was 21 years old. I was up in Chadron, and it was my job after the 5:00 news. It was like news, then we did weather, and then we did a little sports, and then we had to read the obituary report. We read the obituary report 4 times a day. But one time I was reading them, and this person had family or whatever it was from Beatrice. Well, I'm from Southern Illinois, and I've only seen or heard that name pronounced one way. So I said, so from Beatrice, Nebraska. And boy, the phone lines lit up. Like they knew, like, we can tell this guy's not from around here. My boss pulled me aside after. He's like, I just want you to know, there's no way for you to have known this, but it's Beatrice. So.
Yeah. Wow. Good thing they didn't tell you ahead of time, even though they knew.
John, as far as our copycorn.com, Fred wants to know when are the Corn Nation footy pajamas and margarita flavored pacifier coming out?
Well, we'll look at footy pajamas. I'm actually working on some more graphic designs this weekend, and the margarita flavored pacifier just doesn't hold its taste long enough for us.
You would know.
We're still working on the design there.
I like this is what's great about our community, the Chatterfields here, because living in Omaha, David Matney asked the question, who on earth thought Bob Diaco was worth $800,000 a year? And Fred says a soulless ginger AD who hid in his office for a few years. That's who.
You know what? We all thought he was a great hire when it happened. I'm just saying. I'm just letting you know. I did.
I just recall saying, why did we hire the guy who failed at UConn?
Well, I mean, our current offensive coordinator, he didn't fail at South Carolina, but they weren't exactly fans of him. So
you shut your damn dirty mouth.
I'm just saying.
All right.
You know what? In response to that, I would say this. Who likes their offensive coordinator?
Probably USC.
Yeah, guys teams that are in the top 5. Teams are in the top 5,
right.
and
I mean,
even then, right? Even then, they are far. They still.
Iowa loves their offensive coordinator.
They do. They love their offensive coordinator. That is true.
All right, let's keep rock through some of these comments here. Brando Sports World says, how can Daniel Kalin win the most accurate QB award at the Elite 11, but still only be ranked number 15 of the top quarterbacks in the nation? Politics?
Oh, okay. The most accurate part is just part of their evaluation. It's just one part. They have like a competition. I think he was like 16 of 20 on the throws or something like that. But they're there all weekend or whatever. So, but he just jumped up today to be the 15th ranked quarterback in the country. Before that, I think he was 30 something or 40 something maybe, or maybe worse than that. I can't remember. You could probably look at our commit article if someone threw it in there. But I always find this stuff interesting that that's why it's like you can almost give Matt Rule the benefit of the doubt, because these recruiting services, while they generally have a decent idea, and like someone made the point, I forgot who it was, but you have like your top like 15, 20 players, and they're pretty close. And then it's like the 21st through like the 150th player are pretty close, and so it's like all of a sudden, he goes to the Elite 11, does better, then they move him up, or how he had almost zero contact until we offered him, and then I think Texas A&M contacted
Missouri.
Well, yeah. He was committed to Missouri,
right?
But then we offered him, and then he got a bunch of like calls from like big Power 5 schools right away. So it's like, what does the rankings really mean?
Right.
Do I think it's politics? I don't think so, but
it's politics in those terms. That if you come to our camps and we get a seat, those guys get ranked. If you don't, if you're a kid that doesn't have the money to get to a camp and doesn't have any support from anybody, and you're still an incredible athlete, like that kid out of Texas that's 6'5" and runs a 47, 49 meter, whatever the hell it was, right? You don't get ranked at all until somebody notices you.
Yes, if you call that politics, yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's politics. It's the politics of high school sports,
Okay.
David Matney says, too bad Coronation did not do live stream during last year's Northwestern game. Would have loved to see John's reaction to the onside kick in real time. I just want to say this. Watching a game with John is an experience. I got to witness it firsthand last year. I'm trying to remember now what game it was. All I know is that it was a loss.
What? Really?
I'm pretty sure. Didn't they lose that game? Yeah. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, you could guess, you'd be right most of the time.
And it was very intense. The food was great. Tremendous chef, a couple of chefs in the house there. But it was intense. And then I'll tell you what, the lift back to the hotel by the airport was not cheap. And all that to say that I almost missed my flight the next morning. It was a wild weekend in the Twin Cities. But I think everybody's reaction to the onside kick last year against Northwestern was kind of the same. Like, what the hell are you thinking? Who are you, and why did we let you be a head coach at Nebraska?
I don't think that's what I said.
I cleaned it up.
I think my words were, "Are you the dumbest fuck alive in this entire universe?" Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
When that happened, I was just like, oh, he went for it. He went for the knife in the chest, right?
Yeah.
Like it seemed unnecessary, and I thought, okay, it'll be all right. And then all of a sudden, you could just see. Sometimes you're watching a game, and you can just like feel it turn as you're watching it, and you're like, oh, this isn't good. This isn't, because we're still up 11, right? But you can see it like change everything, right? And he obviously was not comfortable in his job, because he's like, oh, I have to win this game, so I'm going for it now, And on that same topic, I heard that Steve Sipple said that when he was informed by the admin or whoever that he was fired, he thanked them. He's like, thank you. Like, he was like,
I heard that too.
Yes, like, thank you. He probably, I'm not going to go all the way there, but I think that it was probably best for both parties. He's probably much happier now, I would suspect.
I would hope.
I double checked the old football schedule. That was the homecoming game October 1st against Indiana that we won 35-21. So it was still intense. And I remember we did the live post-game reaction following that. But watching a game with John is an experience that, you know what? David Manny's not wrong. There should be a special channel membership. Like,
maybe I'll consider this.
You just watch John watch the game.
I can tell you this without really, this isn't an exaggeration. My kids watch me grow up. They grew up watching me watch Husker football and how bad we've been over the years. My kids are terrified of almost nothing in this world. Not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
I
met two of your kids. They're insane.
My son probably has only seen me once get like really emotional, not emotional like crying, but like emotional, like pumped up during a Nebraska game, because we're usually losing already, right? And all that. There's the Iowa game last year, and we were at my cousin's house for Thanksgiving, and him and I were like fist bumping, and like, I'm like, finally we got over the hump type of deal. And so that was pretty fun.
Let's head back to the pinned comments here. Brando Sports Rule says, do you think we will definitely add 2 more teams to the Big Ten? I can't imagine we stop with USC and UCLA. We have to have 2 more out of the Pac-12, right?
No.
Okay. I mean, that's fine.
I don't. Why? Why do we have to?
I mean, look, we're not the Big Ten anymore. We're soon to be 16. So,
yeah, 10 is a name. It's a name, just like a brand name. It's not a number.
I'm well aware how the system works, John.
Okay.
I was telling you, why not make it 20 teams in the Big Ten?
I don't. Go ahead, Nate.
Sorry. Okay. When people have thrown out like Miami and Florida State, I just doesn't make sense to me culturally. I guess Miami is an AAU school, whatever that's called, and whatever the academic part of it. Oregon doesn't fit either, but then does Rutgers, does Maryland,
does UCLA or USC? They don't fit either.
Yeah, and so it's just going to be 2 big conferences at some point, and then they're going to get away from everybody else, and then they'll have a salary cap. And
it'll be like the NFL. I mean, you'll have the Big Ten ostensibly in the SEC, because those are going to be the ones the 2 big ones. And then you'll have the divisions inside it, and then you'll have expanded playoffs. And before you know it, there'll be a longer college season than there is an NFL season. And we wonder why, everybody's knees are shredded by the time they're 27.
I don't think they're going to add any more schools, because there's the economics, the law diminishing benefits, is that's what it's called, right? Nate, you're a smart guy.
You can add the state of Florida to a TV contract. I mean,
but that wasn't the question. It was a Pac-12.
Oh, sorry.
We're going to add 2 more. I don't think we'd add Florida. And by the way, I think USC and UCLA do fit into the Pac or the Big Ten. And the reason why they fit into the Big Ten is the Big Ten has played those schools so often in the Rose Bowl. It still kind of fits in the whole history of the Big Ten for old graunchy people like me.
Matt Snovak here says they'll end up taking Oregon and Washington next to allow for natural rivalries and limit travel demands on West Coast teams. That, kind of makes sense because, again, you're going to be talking about some years where UCLA and USC have to play Penn State or Maryland or Rutgers, Ohio State. I mean, it's going to be tough. And then Matt also says we'll also see Virginia and North Carolina joining soon. Now, that's a new one to me.
See, I'm sure there's a lot of good reasons for it. I just basketball wise, that'd be really good. For both. And Big Ten's a good basketball conference.
Lacrosse, probably.
Sure. I don't know anything about that, but yeah.
I think both those teams have men's lacrosse teams. So, I mean, we have a conference, we have the Big Ten hockey stuff going on, and Nebraska certainly doesn't have a hockey team. So you'd also see increased viewership in lacrosse.
But as far as Oregon and Washington goes, they'd probably be 2 really. I mean, you had Seattle, right? Anyways, I just think so. I assume those 4 West Coast schools are playing each other, and then all of a sudden they're like hanging out, right? And they're playing each other, and then let's go this way, or I guess from my point of view, this way,
right?
And go play a bunch of other Big Ten schools. It just seems weird to me because I think if you add those 2, they'd be their own thing off on the West Coast. But
Gabriel here with an interesting thought. I don't mean to cut you off, John. He says could see more neutral field situations versus adding teams for travel cost reduction.
Why would Michigan give up a home game where they get like 100,000 people in their stands? Not for football.
Well, they're already talking about essentially nixing the Power 5 non-conference team or game. Because I think if the SEC doesn't back off, then they're just going to nix, our Tennessee game and our the Oklahoma game. And so, I don't know.
I don't see this expansion going any further than it is now until there's proof to the TV networks that they're going to be able to get more money out of it. They just, you can only, you have a pie this big, this big. And then if you wanted to go to this big, I don't think you can just add teams on the West Coast and say, pay us more money from like ABC, Fox, whoever. You have I think you have to show it.
James Marshall says that Colorado and West Virginia fit better into the Big Ten than any West Coast school and adds conferences are a regional thing. Anything west of the Rockies is ridiculous to add to the Big Ten. And I think that the middle portion is what resonates the most with me because conferences were always regional, be it the SEC or the Big Ten before it expanded, the Big 8, the Pac-10. Everything it was all your neighbors, it was all the people you love to hate, and you saw them all the time and you beat up on them all the time, hopefully, there's another comment here that we'll highlight, I believe from make sure I get we'll cross that bridge. But what I miss and what was adding to the rising cost is all of these conferences that are no longer make sense geographically.
But we have airplanes now.
I understand that, but we've talked about this on the show before, but you've got a Pac-12 team that's used to playing at the earliest at like 3 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock, I guess, and now So that we always was a Pac-12 after dark, right? That's been the joke for the last several years because nobody's watching Arizona State versus Oregon State. It's just not nobody cares about Colorado, Utah. Now you've got at least two teams who are going to go over and play at what is their 8 o'clock in the morning. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but it's going to happen.
Makes sense.
It's going to happen. There you go, Greg. Come on. Come on.
By the way, Matt says the old school regional conferences are dead, and they died when we went to the Big Ten. At least we're neighbors with Iowa.
Yeah. We're kind of neighbors with USC. Because we have planes. We have planes.
Oh, yeah, I understand we have planes. Vince Watson says would rather add Utah than either Oregon or Washington. Fred says that Colorado doesn't bring any value. West Virginia, I don't know. Maybe they get us the Pitt TV market. Now, we're getting dangerously close to an hour and a half here, and there's still a lot of starred comments. So if I miss some of the live ones coming in, I apologize. But David Matney says, what will be our record after the first 3 games? And I wanted to say, I don't remember who, I didn't highlight it, but somebody said after the first 3 games will be 4-0 because we won the offseason. So,
that's pretty good. I like that.
What do you think, Nate? What do you think?
I think we lose in Minnesota, and then we win the other 2.
That's what I think.
Reno.
Okay.
Come on, guys. Why?
I'm not ready to love again. I have to say this every time.
John, not only are you ready to love, you're ready to be hurt again.
No, I'm not.
You are.
The Minnesota game, I'll be at that game. It'll be in public. So I will be hurt. That's the thing.
You'll be fine. Because we're going to win. Corby says, you guys think a hypothetical 7-5 season with the bowl win would significantly boost recruiting for the 25 class? Not that I'm saying the cycle is bad. I'm drinking Kool-Aid this week, Corby. I've been drinking Kool-Aid all off season long. Yes. I think you show marked improvement and you show that this coaching staff knows how to win and for the most part, probably with guys who are not their guys. Now they've hit the transfer portal a little bit. They brought in some guys, Jeff Sims among others. But they're significantly. I think you see a good boot, which is not bad because I think after some of the signings this week, I think Nebraska's up to 14th nationally.
Yeah, 14th.
So
maybe 13th, depending upon the service.
And Dion Pryor says a bowl game would send recruiting into the stratosphere.
Yeah, I think if you show direction and you have a plan and that you know what you're doing and you act like a professional, that's all of these things. All of these things would be proof of moving in a direction, a good direction, a winning direction, a positive direction for Nebraska fans.
Can you so Fred asks, if we lose to Minnesota, will it define our season? Do you see that?
What?
Yeah.
Say that again.
Fred asks, if we lose to Minnesota, there we go. Okay.
If
don't
Fred
have to answer on the show, but just asking in general. Well, Fred, I love you so much. I'm going to answer on the show. And the answer is no.
I just want to put this out there. It's times like this that I'm reminded that I had homework this week for the show that I didn't do. So we'll see if MK remembers the question from last week. If not, I'm going to skate by it, and maybe we'll try to address it next week. Definitely don't have the answer for now. James Marshall had – here we go. Nope, that's not the right one. There we go. James Marshall said earlier, I miss the days that you knew that the Huskers weren't going to get overpowered. Maybe outmaneuvered, but never overpowered. Nice distinction there. I definitely long for the days when Nebraska is the toughest team on the field.
Hey, James, we're bringing. They're good.
If we go 7-5, And part of that 7-5 is answering this question, is showing that we are no longer being pushed around like little puss boys. That is a massive, giant thing for recruiting. And that probably, out of anything we've discussed tonight, that's probably the number one thing that Nebraska needs to show in 2023, is that our strength and conditioning people kind of know what they're doing, and that they can show that they can be a physical. They don't have to do it against Minnesota because it's still early, but as the team season goes on, that should become more apparent as part of the playing process.
James also weighed in on that question about a loss to Minnesota, which again is not going to happen, but says the Minnesota game is very important, not just because it's a conference game, but it's a barometer of the team's toughness. So a little bit of, John, what you were just saying there. And Fred says for the 5 millionth time, this season will depend on our offensive line. This is why I don't think we get anything beyond 7 wins. James says, I'd rather go 7-5 like Illinois did last year than go 8-4 like Purdue did.
You mean like by throwing the ball all over?
I don't know.
Not
by
sure what he's
losing
getting
their
at there.
head
James,
coach.
what do you mean?
All right. Living in Omaha, David Matney says we need a special postseason video dedicated to the top 10 comments by Fred Sacco. Oh,
that would be hard to do.
I don't think I could do that. Not just because, just because of volume alone. Right?
Yes.
James says why Purdue was weak up front.
True.
Oh, and then MK says, I have more homework. Who are the top 5 Husker alumni best at supporting Nebraska after graduation? Oh, man. I got to say probably number 1 is Ndamukong Suh for all the, money that he put into then they renamed the weightlifting, the facility after him.
No, they renamed the law school after him.
You say the law school?
Yeah, because he sued everybody.
Oh, God. Why? Why? Now I'm dead. I can't go on.
You're the worst.
Why?
I'm pretty sure I just heard your wife.
You literally thought of this joke months ago, and we're waiting.
I didn't.
All of your life.
Come on, it's not bad.
I was not. As far as best of supporting, you know what, Rex Burkhead, not just for the support of the school, but of the Team Jack Foundation. I think that's
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Which all comes back to the state of Nebraska. Maybe not the funds necessarily, but it's all good luck. It's a really good question. I don't have. We'll definitely cheat off of you guys over the next week to come up with a few more names. The homework that he did have it, because last week we talked about how once a Husker, always a Husker is a bunch of nonsense, or at least I said it's a bunch of nonsense when somebody leaves the program. Not based on graduation or going to the NFL, but when they just pack up and go to another school. I said, no longer a Husker. And so that was MK's question, is who are the top 10 not a Husker former Huskers? So that's the homework I did not do, but I also have 3 kids, one of whom's been sick this week and a job. So sorry, MK, for letting you down. Oh God. Nate M says, Fred, you lost me. Oh my, I'm in physical pain. This is the onside kick of podcasts. All right. By the way, Dondre said it was a very good joke. And
thank you.
And Fred says, you guys are the best, even John. So, and then our last question has nothing to do with football, but it's an important one nonetheless. And Mike Schuster asked this one over an hour ago when this episode was still in its infancy, and says, off subject, but I hope John's air quality hasn't caused any health issues.
No, it hasn't.
Y'all doing all right with your air quality up there in Minnesota?
It's been bizarre. I mean, there's been days where it's been very, very, very I was going to say holocausty. That's not the right word. That's
Oh God.
Apocalypse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Post-apocalyptic. I mean, the sky is just a terrible, like you're walking around in something that's been blown up and burned to pieces. The whole town is burned down, and it's been nasty a few times. My wife is a preschool teacher, and by I think state standards, they have to watch the air quality, like colors, and they can't go outside if it's too bad. And they've had a few days like that, but I haven't had any problems with it.
Good. Probably.
Thanks for asking. Thanks for the concern. I appreciate that.
Probably not out trying to run any 5Ks.
Next week, you'll have to ask me if there was any long-term effects from Nate's joke, but
So, all right. Well, I think everybody, 91 minutes into this thing, is probably a good time to call it a night. When we started, I could still see daylight, and now it is but night. It feels right.
Okay.
That's a great ending. Very good.
Thank you to all of you Chatterfields for our first time exclusively on YouTube. Tell your friends. Tell them exactly where they can find us. If you missed any familiar faces or names, there we go. You probably can't, but you should at least ask the university if you can put Herbie on there, because that would be like coverall inception, because he wears coveralls.
These aren't mine. These are coming from foco.com.
Oh, sure. They definitely didn't look like Nebraska colors or logos. So I'm right there with you. But for Nate, who joined us tonight, and we do appreciate you, for John Dam Johnston, our founder, fearless leader, and really the internet father of us all, I'm Greg Mahochko. This has been the 5 Heart Podcast, where we remind you each and every week that 5 Heart is all the heart you need. John?
Go Big Red!
Nate?
I got nothing.
That's pretty much the usual. He really emptied his cup with that sued joke, is what it was.
I was very proud of that, by the way. I thought of it like that. It's not that hard, but I was like, oh, here we go.
Glad I teed that one up accidentally for you. I wish I would have not done that.
I did not have that, like, oh, I should tell this joke.
Oh.